After that, he didn't chase Liu Bei out and let him cultivate in the Taoist temple. The Taoist temple fell silent. Time passed quickly. The universe of stars kept evolving. More and more stars appeared and gathered to form a magnificent galaxy and sea of stars. There were also thousands of forms in the stars, and the entire universe became colorful. On the other side, in the depths of the chaos, Huang Xuantian was the first to land on a barren continent. Everyone, start searching in groups of 3. You must find the fiend celestial origin, Huang Xuantian instructed. With that said, the hundreds of lives immediately dispersed. Then, Huang Xuantian flew alone and quickly traveled above the ground. It should be here. A voice sounded in Huang Xuantian's mind. It was primordial origin. They had long fused. Primordial origin was now assisting Huang Xuantian. Although he had failed to break through to the primordial fiend celestial, his ambitions had never been extinguished. Huang Xuantian asked in his mind, what should I do after finding the fiend celestial origin? Revive the fiend celestial? Primordial fiend celestial. Unknowingly, all living beings had already begun to forget the primordial fiend celestial. All sorts of rumors pointed to the great Tao divine spirits, claiming that the primordial fiend celestial was only a pretense. The great Tao divine spirits used the excuse of capturing the primordial fiend celestial to destroy the chaotic fiend celestials. It was the truth. Huang Xuantian originally thought that the primordial fiend celestial was fabricated. He didn't expect it to really exist. Don't worry. No one in the world has seen a primordial fiend celestial, including the oldest divine spirits. Huang Xuantian was relieved when he heard that. His eyes revealed anticipation. An hour later, a voice sounded, Life Lord, the fiend celestial origin is here. Huang Xuantian immediately moved away. He came to a bottomless valley. A life floated in the air and looked down. Huang Xuantian immediately entered the valley and disappeared. 100,000 years passed. Hanju opened his eyes. Liu Bei was no longer in the Taoist temple. Liu Bei had quietly left tens of thousands of years ago. He looked outside the Taoist temple. Liu Bei was under a tree, with flowers and plants within a radius of 50 feet. They were red and green. Hanju smiled. He deliberately covered the third Tao field with the great Tao of extreme origin because he wanted to give birth to lives when he preached the Tao to Liu Bei. The universe without living beings was deathly silent. But this was a good start. Hanju didn't mind. He just left it to time. He checked the emails. Your good friend Huang Xuantian has fused with the fiend celestial origin and transformed into a chaotic fiend celestial. Your disciple Tao Sovereign has grasped the chaotic domain. His cultivation has increased greatly. Your good friend Evil Heavenly Emperor established the Heavenly God General. His cultivation has increased greatly. Your disciple Zhou Fan discussed the Tao with your enemy, the 7 Tao Sage. His cultivation has increased. Your enemy Primordial Ancestor God has fused with the Divine Authority General and suffered a backlash. It was so easy? Hanju raised his eyebrows. This primordial origin was interesting. The chaotic fiend celestial was not so easy to replace. Below that were mostly opportunities. Zhou Fan and the 7 Tao Sage were together again. Zhou Fan's favorability did not decrease, which meant that he was not bewitched by the other party. The two of them might be friends. No matter what, Zhou Fan indeed owed the 7 Tao Sage. If not for him, Zhou Fan would have died thousands of times. Hanju narrowed his eyes. His attention was attracted by the primordial ancestor god. What was this fellow doing? He had actually fused with a divine authority general. It seemed that this fellow was indeed very careful, afraid that he would fail in the battle with Hanju. Hanju took out the Book of Misfortune and immediately started cursing the primordial ancestor god. However, his curse missed. He couldn't curse the primordial ancestor god at all. This made him very angry. No matter how angry he was, he could only give up. Then, Hanju teleported to the main Dao field. He began to observe the heavenly Dao. There was no danger. The foolish sword sage, red fate, and great sage void soul were still cultivating in peace. Everything seemed so calm. Hanju returned to the third Dao field after observing the situation. He suddenly thought of Jiangjueshi. His expression changed as his will jumped onto the chaos. His gaze quickly captured Jiangjueshi. Jiangjueshi was still wandering in the chaos. Hanju began to fabricate a lie and moved the space where Jiangjueshi was to the vicinity of the universe of stars. He moved so quickly that Jiangjueshi didn't even notice. Hanju smiled. He began to look forward to the scene of Jiangjueshi accidentally entering the universe of stars. Then, he continued cultivating. Year after year passed. Nearly 20,000 years later. Detected that you are 4 million years old and your life has taken another step forward. You have the following choices. 1. Exit seclusion immediately and promote the reputation of the primordial fiend celestial. You can obtain a Great Dao fragment, a primordial fragment, a creation spirit stone, and a Great Dao sage level guard. 2. Maintain your seclusion and cultivate in a low-profile manner. Stay away from trouble. You can obtain a Great Dao fragment, a primordial fragment, a creation spirit stone, and a heavenly Dao spirit stone. Hanju's eyes lit up. He had never yearned to obtain the heavenly Dao spirit stone so much. Furthermore, the system was so considerate. It didn't put the heavenly Dao spirit stone in the first option. He immediately chose the second option. You chose to maintain your seclusion and cultivate in a low-profile manner. You obtained a Great Dao fragment, a primordial fragment, a creation spirit stone, and a heavenly Dao spirit stone. Hanju took out the creation spirit stone and fused it with a ball of fiend celestial chi. He then took out the heavenly Dao spirit stone and the Book of Misfortune and chose to fuse them. The Book of Misfortune was already a Great Dao supreme treasure. Above that was the ultimate Dao treasure. The ultimate Dao treasure, the Book of Misfortune, should be able to curse the primordial ancestral god. Hanju was looking forward to it. The primordial ancestor god was fusing with a divine authority general. This was not a good thing. He had to resolve it as soon as possible. He waited for the Book of Misfortune to level up after fusing with the heavenly Dao spirit stone. Hanju didn't wait in vain and continued cultivating. Under the tree, Liu Bei opened his eyes and looked at a white flower in front of him. This white flower was 30 centimeters tall and had leaves like swords. It has finally begun to absorb spirit chi. I wonder how its potential is, Liu Bei muttered with anticipation. He knew that his potential was average, so he wanted to nurture a team for Hanju. He was already a sage. Previously, he had used his sage sense to observe this universe. The entire universe was still in the process of derivation. Perhaps a world-shattering genius would be born in the future. Liu Bei began to preach the Tao to the white flower in front of him, not caring if it could listen. Most of the area in the third Tao field was still barren. Only the area under the tree was covered in flowers. Year after year passed. The Book of Misfortune was finally upgraded after 89,000 years. It was upgraded from a Great Dao Supreme Treasure to an Ultimate Dao Treasure. The Great Dao Supreme Treasure was the same as a Chaotic Supreme Treasure. The Great Dao level was the same as the Chaotic level. The reason the Book of Misfortune was not a Chaotic Supreme Treasure was probably that it was related to the Great Dao. After successfully upgrading, Hanju took out the Book of Misfortune. A black light burst out and shone on his face. The terrifying curse power contained in the Book of Misfortune made the book itself heavy. Even he, a great Tao Supreme, felt his heart palpitate. What kind of monster had he nurtured? Hanju felt a little uneasy. Will the Book of Misfortune cause a backlash on me? 1 trillion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Not for the time being. That was good. It seemed that he had to be more cautious when upgrading next time. Hanju took a deep breath, held the Book of Misfortune, and started cursing the primordial ancestor god. I knew it! This time, he could finally curse the primordial ancestral god. Hanju's body shook and he immediately cursed with all his might. The violent curse power was like a chaotic tsunami that swept towards the primordial ancestor god with unstoppable force. At the same time, in the bright sky, circular stone platforms floated. A figure emitting divine light was meditating on the highest stone platform. All sorts of strange beasts ran around him, and his true appearance could not be seen. Primordial ancestor god. He suddenly opened his eyes. The divine light couldn't cover his cold eyes, as if he could see through everything in the world. Dark Forbidden Lord, the primordial ancestor god said a name in his mind. He panicked. This was the first time he had been cursed. One had to know that he had the chaotic divine body and could not be cursed by karma. What was going on? He subconsciously thought of Hanju when he thought of the Dark Forbidden Lord. Hanju was very likely the Dark Forbidden Lord. After all, this fellow had once killed 20,000 divine authority generals with a single strike. However, Hanju had been hiding in the Tao field. Even he, the leader of the divine spirits, couldn't spy on his Tao field. What if the Dark Forbidden Lord was not Hanju? The primordial ancestor god suddenly thought of such a possibility. The Dark Forbidden Lord was too mysterious and couldn't be deduced at all. He could deduce and know Hanju's past when the latter left his Tao field. Apart from the time Hanju hid in the Tao field, he indeed didn't curse anyone when he went out. Who else could it be but Hanju? The Devil Ancestor? The Life Lord? Or the illusory Tao Ancestor? The primordial ancestor god guessed as he resisted the curse. He was frustrated. He gradually lost control of the chaos ever since the Tao ancestor disappeared. The primordial ancestor god couldn't figure it out. He only felt that other existences wanted to stir the chaos. Although he was the leader of the divine spirits, the higher he stood, the more afraid he was. At least, he knew that there was a terrifying existence above the great Tao, but it was not in the chaos. Just like that, day after day passed. The primordial ancestor god cancelled out the curse, so he did not panic. However, the curse power suddenly increased 5 days later. The primordial ancestor god was shocked and hurriedly tried his best to block. However, the curse power soared with an unstoppable force. It was 1,000 times stronger than before, 10,000 times stronger. How is this possible? What power is this? A storm brewed in the primordial ancestor of God's heart. Hanju cursed with all his might. The Book of Misfortune emitted wisps of strange black aura that formed a fog that filled the temple. As he stared at his lifespan, he opened the emails and checked the situation. His lifespan decreased rapidly. 10 billion years. 100 billion years. 1 trillion years. 10 trillion years. Hanju was already prepared to bleed. Since he wanted to curse, he would curse the primordial ancestor god until he was crippled. His lifespan continued to decrease. Hanju lost 10 quadrillion years of his lifespan after a long time. Because of your curse, the great Tao of your enemy, the primordial ancestor god, was damaged. Only damaged? Hanju continued cursing. He didn't want to curse the primordial ancestor god to death. At the very least, he wanted to severely injure him and not give him a chance to fuse with the divine authority general. Hanju suddenly felt something at this moment. As he cursed, he looked at the chaos. Someone had achieved the supreme realm. Only a great Tao Supreme could sense it. Above the 3,000 great Tao, a will was looking down at the chaos, just like him back then. However, Hanju couldn't see his true appearance. Hanju didn't mind and didn't want to offend the other party. He focused on cursing. He no longer cared about those who had just entered the great Tao Supreme realm. Hanju secretly decided to contribute a septillion years of his lifespan to curse the primordial ancestor god. Yes! A septillion years. Hanju's eyes turned colder. Soon, his lifespan decreased by 100 quadrillion years. Even so, he did not trigger a second email. The primordial ancestor god was something. Hanju gritted his teeth and persisted. 200 quadrillion years. 300 quadrillion years. 400 quadrillion years. Because of your curse, the great Tao of your enemy, the primordial ancestor god, cracked and his Tao heart was damaged. Continue. 500 quadrillion years. Because of your curse, the cultivation of your enemy, the primordial ancestor god, has declined. The supreme power is in chaos. Not enough! Hanju's eyes turned red. It was not that his body was burdened, but that he would break the record for spending his lifespan. 600 quadrillion years. 700 quadrillion years. Because of your curse, your enemy, the primordial ancestor god, has developed mental demons in his Tao heart. As expected of you. Then continue. Hanju didn't panic at all. The number he had prepared to spend hadn't reached the minimum lifespan number yet. 800 quadrillion years of lifespan. 900 quadrillion years of lifespan. Because of your curse, the great Tao of your enemy, the primordial ancestor god, was damaged. Your enemy, the primordial ancestor god, suffered a backlash from the divine authority general. Your enemy, the primordial ancestor god, used his will to recover his body and cultivation. Ha! Let's see who can afford to waste more lifespan. The Book of Misfortune trembled slightly and a strange black aura surrounded Hanju. 1 quintillion years. Hanju cursed patiently. At the same time, a ball of chi appeared in the absolute darkness at the edge of the chaos. This chi quickly condensed into a figure and slowly stepped out of the darkness. He wore a black robe and blood-stained black armor under it. His black hair fluttered wantonly and his face was cold. His eyes were pale and did not have black pupils. Leader of the divine spirits, your Tao is in shambles. I didn't expect you to have such a day. The black-robed, white-eyed man sneered and walked towards the chaos. Every step crossed the vast chaotic domain and constantly approached the 3,000 great Tao. 1.3 quintillion years. Because of your curse, the cultivation of your enemy, the primordial ancestor god, has decreased greatly. His body has been destroyed. Your enemy, the primordial ancestor god, used the power of the great Tao to recover his body and cultivation. Your enemy, the primordial ancestor god, was attacked by a mysterious mighty figure. Hanju raised his eyebrows. Well done. Hanju became even more excited and continued cursing. 1.4 quintillion years. 1.5 quintillion years. Because of your curse, the soul origin of your enemy, the primordial ancestor god, was damaged. Your enemy, the primordial ancestor god, was attacked by a mysterious mighty figure and was severely injured. Your enemy, the primordial ancestor god, used his will to recover his body. Hanju was secretly shocked by the primordial ancestor god's tenacity. This fellow was something. He fought with others as he endured his curse. However, this time, the primordial ancestor god did not recover his cultivation. Continue cursing. I'll take his life when he's down. Adding insult to injury was the best revenge against the enemy. 1.6 quintillion years. 1.7 quintillion years. 1.8 quintillion years. Because of your curse, the soul of your enemy, the primordial ancestor god, was severely injured. His Tao heart has shattered. Your enemy, the primordial ancestor god, was attacked by a mysterious mighty figure. His body and soul were destroyed. Hanju was stunned. Was he dead? However, his curse did not fail. He immediately checked his interpersonal relationships and found the primordial ancestor god's portrait. The portrait was still there, which meant that he had yet to die. Hanju suddenly felt a sense of sorrow at this moment. He wasn't the only one. All living beings in the heavenly Tao and even the chaos were the same. As were. Hanju looked up. The 3,000 great Tao trembled. Golden rain fell from all directions, causing a natural phenomenon. A domineering voice resounded through the chaos. Only those who had reached the great Tao could hear it. In other words, even a freedom sage could not hear this voice. Ultimate god of punishment? Who was that? Hanju was secretly puzzled. He had never heard of this name before. He did not relax and continued cursing. Since the primordial ancestor god wanted to fake his death, he would fulfill his wish and curse him to death. 1.9 quintillion years. 2 quintillion years. Because of your curse, the divinity of your enemy, the primordial ancestor god, was destroyed. His eternal providence has shattered. Your enemy, the primordial ancestor god, is protected by the supreme rules. His origin soul is sealed. Hanju's curse missed after that. He felt like he suddenly missed a step as he walked. It was very unpleasant. He put away the book of misfortune and heaved a sigh of relief. Hanju smiled in satisfaction. He asked in his mind, I want to know about the ultimate god of punishment. 1 trillion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Ultimate god of punishment, perfected great Tao supreme realm, transcendent Tao expert, chaotic origin spirit, great Tao controller. When the chaos first opened, other than the chaotic fiend celestials who represented the 3,000 great Tao, there was also a batch of chaotic origin spirits that contained the great creation of the chaos. The ultimate god of punishment is one of them. Perfected great Tao supreme realm. No wonder he dared to attack the primordial ancestor god. Hanju asked in his mind, can I insta-kill the ultimate god of punishment? 1 trillion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Not for the time being. Hanju was a little disappointed. He could only hope that the ultimate god of punishment wouldn't find trouble with him after he took over. The ultimate god of punishment's appearance meant that some ancient mighty figures were hidden in the chaos. They hid in their respective supreme domains and rarely walked around. However, this was normal. The chaos existed for countless years. Just calculating how many years the heavenly Tao had been born was enough, let alone the chaos. Even Laozi, a living being of the heavenly Tao, could climb to the great Tao supreme realm, let alone the chaotic living beings born before the heavenly Tao. Hanju mourned for the chaotic fiend celestials. In the past, the chaotic fiend celestials were high and mighty. The chaotic origin spirits were like mortals in front of them and could only shiver. Time passed and the great Tao changed. Now, most of the chaotic fiend celestials had perished. Those who were still alive were all struggling at death's door and were no longer enough to control the situation. How tragic. Hanju was only a fake chaotic fiend celestial, so he wasn't affected. He walked out of the Taoist temple and found Liu Bei. Liu Bei was still cultivating and didn't feel his approach. He only woke up when Hanju coughed. He hurriedly stood up and bowed. Hanju said, "You want to nurture living beings?" Liu Bei replied, "I know that my potential can't catch up to yours. Why don't I help you control this universe? I see that this universe has great potential and there are no factions around." He began to talk as if he was making a report. Hanju interrupted, "Work hard in that case. But don't forget your cultivation." With that, he turned around and left. As he walked, he waved his sleeve as if he was stirring the wind, but he was actually scattering the great Tao of extreme origin. He spread the great Tao of extreme origin to the entire universe of stars. However, the universe of stars was still far from giving birth to living beings. Hanju had an idea. He wanted to speed up the time in this universe, but the power of creation was not enough. Time could be increased at will as long as there was enough power of creation. A day in the Tao field was enough for 10 billion years to pass in the universe of stars. However, this universe would collapse sooner or later and turn into nothingness if he accelerated the time and the power of creation was not enough. It wouldn't even be a flash in the chaos. For people walked in the wind. They were Tao Sovereign, Zhao Xinyuan, Jiang Yi, and Lao Dan. Tao Sovereign turned to look at Lao Dan behind him and urged, "Old man, why are you staying behind? Hurry up and lead the way." Lao Dan said angrily, "There's only one path. Why do you need a guide?" Zhao Xinyuan said in a strange tone, "This old fellow is still angry. He was clearly the one who coveted the treasure and was hated by the other party. He even blamed us for being rude and offending him." Lao Dan exploded upon hearing this. "He's a great Tao sage. How can I covet his treasure? If not for the fact that I'm related to Laozi, all of you would have died," Lao Dan said indignantly, blowing his nose and glaring. "Hee, how can you prove it? Isn't the heavenly Tao's freedom sage enough proof?" Lao Dan was silent. Zhao Xinyuan turned around and hooked his arm around Lao Dan's neck. He pulled him to the front and smiled. "Old man, why are you gambling? We're on the same boat. We'll live and die together. You have to guide the way when we reach the Taoist deep region." Tao Sovereign asked, "Is there really a huge opportunity in the Taoist deep region?" Lao Dan shook off Zhao Xuanyuan's hand and pinched his beard. He smiled and said, "Of course. The place where Pangu revived is in the Taoist deep region. There are no great Tao rules, no karma, and no time." A huge battle erupted there. Before Pangu split the sky, at least 100 chaotic fiend celestials died in the Taoist deep region. How can the treasures they left behind not be great opportunities? Then, how can you be sure that Pangu didn't loot all those treasures? Jiang Yi asked with a frown. Lao Dan rolled his eyes and said, "Pangu is not such a person. He was also the one who revealed the address of the Taoist deep region." Jiang Yi was skeptical. Zhao Xinyuan was deep in thought. Tao Sovereign said, "Laozi, the heavenly sect master, and the heavenly lord of primordial beginning are formed by Pangu's essence soul. It's normal for them to be taken care of by Pangu." Lao Dan raised his head proudly, as if saying, "Hurry up and praise me." "By the way, is the Taoist deep region dangerous?" Jiang Yi suddenly asked. Tao Sovereign and Zhao Xinyuan immediately looked at Lao Dan. Lao Dan was stunned. He thought of his experiences over the years and shivered. Could it be? No! Impossible! How could he be so unlucky? Lao Dan turned to look at Tao Sovereign and the other two with a faint gaze. Tao Sovereign and the other two were embarrassed by the stare and turned their heads away. In the endless sky, amidst layers of clouds, the divine-robed Taoist landed on a circular stone platform. Dozens of great Tao divine spirits were around him, all chatting. the leader of the Divine Spirits has really changed? I'm not sure. I've heard of him. He's said to be an ancient existence who survived the Fiend Celestial era. The Fiend Celestial era. That's indeed impressive. The ultimate god of punishment had offended the leader of the Divine Spirits in the past and was sent to the lowest level of the chaos to suppress the evil vengeful spirits. I didn't expect him to return. The great Tao Divine Spirits discussed among themselves. The Divine Robe Taoist did not participate. He knew that the more he said, the more mistakes he would make. He just had to wait and see. In any case, he had already betrayed the great Tao Divine Spirits. At this moment, the head of the Holy Mother of Order emerged from below. It was even larger than a mountain. It quickly rose and looked down at all the great Tao Divine Spirits. The great Tao Divine Spirits immediately bowed to her. The Holy Mother of Order did not say anything and waited in front of the stone platform. After a long while, a black light descended from the sky and landed on the stone platform. The ultimate god of punishment slowly walked out. His black hair was still disheveled, and the blood on his black armor was still there, as if it could never be washed away. The terrifying killing intent shocked the Divine Spirits into retreating. The atmosphere was solemn. The ultimate god of punishment scanned all the Divine Spirits and asked, "Who else isn't here?" The great Tao Divine Spirits looked at each other and did not dare to answer. The great Tao Divine Spirits were silent. "Holy Mother, long time no see. I didn't expect you to still be here." The ultimate god of punishment looked at the Holy Mother of Order and smiled. However, his smile was sinister and cold. The Holy Mother of Order replied indifferently, "I didn't expect you to still be here." The ultimate god of punishment smiled faintly. The Holy Mother of Order is called the Order, but she always attacks for the sake of so-called favor. She repeatedly violated the order and is considered to have severely neglected her duty. However, I am the new leader of the Divine Spirits. I will let bygones be bygones. The Holy Mother of Order was silent. The ultimate god of punishment scanned all the great Tao Divine Spirits and said, "From today onwards, the chaos should stir up a new chapter. The bad habits of the past cannot be left behind. I want the chaos to prosper and not be as dead as today. Everyone knows that the reason the chaos is like this is because of you. You're afraid of the rise of the younger generation. You're afraid of being replaced. However, this is a huge mistake. I request that each of you lead at least 100 worlds to develop. Every world must nurture a great Tao sage. This does not include the world you created. If you have already created the world, it must be destroyed. If you are unwilling, I will personally take action to destroy you and the world." The great Tao Divine Spirits were in an uproar, but no one dared to resist. The ultimate god of punishment continued, "The legend of the primordial fiend celestial is only a lie. The primordial chaos is a hypothesis. The time I survived far exceeds your imagination. However, I've never seen the primordial chaos with my own eyes, let alone the primordial fiend celestial. Previously, it was only an excuse used by the primordial ancestor god to eliminate the chaotic fiend celestials. There's no need to investigate the primordial fiend celestial in the future. If a new chaotic fiend celestial is born, don't make things difficult for it. There's no deadline for the mission I gave you previously. I'll investigate at any time. Once I start investigating, there won't be any mercy. The primordial ancestor god is already dead. I won't refuse if you want to follow in his footsteps." Primordial ancestor god. The great Tao Divine Spirits looked at each other. This was the first time they had heard the name of the leader of the Divine Spirits. The ultimate god of punishment waved his sleeve and turned around. "Go down and execute it. I'll split the great Tao Divine Spirits into 3 grades. The first grade is the highest and is the level of the Holy Mother of Order. The power and rules you control will also surpass the other great Tao divine spirits. This is your opportunity. I'll personally reshuffle the list. Who is the higher god and who is the lower god depends on your efforts. With that, he vanished. The great Tao divine spirits heaved a sigh of relief. They subconsciously turned to look at the Holy Mother of Order, but she had already disappeared. The divine spirits immediately left. The divine robed Taoist left alone. He wanted to tell Hanju this news. A continent floated quietly under the dark purple starry sky. Han Tua, Yi Tian, and the three great Tao divine spirits meditated and cultivated. The starry sky suddenly tore open and an eye appeared. It was 10 million times larger than this continent. The five new great Tao divine spirits suddenly looked up and saw the eye. They immediately stood up in fear. The primordial ancestor god has already been killed by me. I'm the ultimate god of punishment. I'll be the new leader of the divine spirits from today onwards. The five of you will follow me from now on and serve as the five great divine punishers to supervise the great Tao divine spirits. The ultimate god of punishment's voice fell softly, but the expressions of the five changed drastically. Although they didn't know who the primordial ancestor god was, they understood what he meant. The previous leader of the divine spirits was dead. Impossible! Han Tua was the most shocked. Could it be arranged by his father? This voice was very unfamiliar to him. Could it be such a coincidence? He had just asked his father for help hundreds of thousands of years ago, and the leader of the divine spirits changed owners? Han Tua didn't dare to think too much or tell anyone. The hole in the starry sky vanished. The ultimate god of punishment's eyes disappeared and everything returned to normal. Inside the Taoist temple, Hanju opened his eyes, which meant that another 100,000 years had passed. He stood up and teleported to the main Tao field before jumping into the Universal Hall. Only Heavenly Venerate Xian-Du was in the hall. Seeing Hanju appear, Heavenly Venerate Xian-Du immediately summoned the other sages. Heavenly Sage, I disturbed you because the situation in the chaos has changed, Heavenly Venerate Xian-Du said in a low voice. From fellow Taoist Han to a heavenly sage, their relationship had clearly changed. It felt like they were superior and subordinate. A wise man submits to the circumstances. Hanju said, let's wait until all the sages are here. The leader of the divine spirits who agreed to fight with the heavenly sage has been killed. The new leader of the divine spirits has ascended the throne. The situation in the chaos is about to change. I'll first talk about what the divine robed Taoist told me. This new leader of the divine spirits, Heavenly Venerate Xian-Du, scanned all the sages and slowly spoke. Hanju's expression didn't change. He was reading the emails and ignored their gazes. A thought appeared in the sages' minds. Could the death of the leader of the divine spirits be related to the heavenly sage? That was the leader of the divine spirits who had lived for countless years. He had just agreed to fight with the divine might heavenly sage and then died? Hanju could guess what they were thinking, but he didn't care. Wouldn't his prestige increase even if they determined that it was related to him? However, there were some things that they could think about but not say. Hanju would remind them later. Email after email flashed in front of him. He suddenly noticed an email. Your enemy, the primordial ancestor god, dispersed his will and created the primordial divine clan. Interesting. Hanju subconsciously checked his interpersonal relationships and discovered that the portrait of the primordial ancestor of God was already gone. No, he had probably lost consciousness and couldn't hate Hanju anymore. He should continue to survive in the form of a race. Hanju remembered the primordial divine clan. No matter what, the 10 million year agreement was broken. Hanju could cultivate in peace in the future. However, he couldn't figure out the ultimate god of punishment's attitude. The two of them had no grudge. He hoped that this fellow wouldn't be stupid. In Hanju's opinion, the ultimate god of punishment was not as powerful as the primordial ancestor god. BEV. Hanju continued reading the emails. Dao Sovereign and the other three were being beaten again. Hanju couldn't understand them. Weren't they tired of it? Especially Lao Dan. Did he still need opportunities with the three pure sacred world behind him? The sages began to discuss after Heavenly Venerate Xian Du finished speaking. In that case, this ultimate god of punishment is still magnanimous. Indeed, the chaos has developed for so long, but it looks barren and desolate. The great Tao divine spirits indeed have to bear the main responsibility. Can the chaos carry so many living beings if all the living beings cultivate continuously? The chaos is endless. How can you imagine it? I also feel that something is wrong. Everything happened too suddenly. The sages discussed among themselves. The new sages did not speak. They didn't understand the chaos and did not dare to guess. There were more and more heavenly Tao sages now, including unfamiliar faces that Hanju had never seen before. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du said, "No matter what, it's a good thing for now. It won't affect the development plan of the heavenly Tao. I called you here today for the most important thing. Heavenly Tao will sooner or later collide with the three pure sacred world in this chaotic domain if it continues to develop. Already some worlds in the Heaven and Earth Alliance have joined forces with the Heavenly Tao have changed sides." With that, he looked around at the sages. The Heavenly Tao sages would occasionally leave the Heavenly Tao, and many of them were related to the three pure sacred world. Foolish Sword Sage snorted. "We'll just fight if we bump into each other. What's there to be afraid of? Only Laozi and the Heavenly Sect Master can make me afraid in the three pure sacred world. The others are just thieves." Red Fate nodded with disdain. Great Sage Void Soul didn't speak. His attitude depended on Hanju. Cho Shilai asked teasingly, "Heavenly Venerate, you dare to attack Laozi?" His words received the sage's agreement. Which branch would annex the main family? Wouldn't that be a huge joke? Heavenly Venerate Wufa said, "Try your best to rope them in. It's still early to start the war. Currently, the two territories are not connected. Time is the most beneficial to the Heavenly Tao. The three pure sacred worlds' rules are not as perfect as the Heavenly Tao's. Their development speed is far inferior to the Heavenly Tao's. Rules couldn't be created casually with a high cultivation level." The other sages also gave suggestions. In short, they weren't afraid of the three pure sacred world. After a long while, Heavenly Venerate Xian Du looked at Hanju and asked, "Heavenly Sage, say something?" With that said, the universal hall fell silent. All the sages looked at Hanju. The sages nodded. The Heavenly Sage said, "Well, we still have to maintain our original intention. Don't be careless." Su Dudao said loudly with an excited expression. Yang Che added, "That's right. Thank you for the reminder, Heavenly Sage. We're indeed a little arrogant. This is not good. The Heavenly Sage is indeed the lamp that guides the way for our Heavenly Tao." The other sages began to flatter him. The new sages had strange expressions, but they could only follow suit. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du said a few things and then dismissed them. Hanju stood up and prepared to leave. The foolish sword sage came up and said, "Fellow Taoist Han, do you want to spar? It's only a spar, not a death match." He added more words halfway, clearly feeling scared. Hanju brushed past him and said, "Actually, killing 20,000 Divine Authority Generals is not my limit. I can kill 10,000 of you. Look for me when you reach perfection." The foolish sword sage's smile froze, but he was not exasperated. He only turned around and looked deeply at his back. The other sages were shocked, but they didn't dare to show it. They didn't even dare to look at the foolish sword sage. The foolish sword sage was also a big shot they could not provoke. The latest 下划线 AP 下划线 Sodis are on 下划线 the LIBR website. The divine robed Taoist sat on the throne. His gaze landed on a figure in the hall and he looked impatient. This figure was Taoist Dragonhead, who had wanted to find trouble with the heavenly Tao. He was killed by the foolish sword sage before he could touch the divine might heavenly sage. Fortunately, he had a method to revive. Exalted God, you'll be threatened sooner or later if you let the heavenly Tao develop, Taoist Dragonhead said in a low voice. The divine robed Taoist said angrily, don't you know that I've already lost? Of course, I know. That's why I'm roping you in. If we join forces, we can definitely defeat the divine might heavenly sage. What a joke! You can't even defeat the foolish sword sage. How can you fight the divine might heavenly sage? Foolish sword sage? Wasn't the one who killed me the divine might heavenly sage? Bullsh, 星号 T. The divine robed Taoist became even more impatient. He had never seen such a stupid and arrogant great Tao sage.